The National Convention decrees. There must be no other constitution but the constitution adopted by the people. Individuals and property are protected by the French people. The National Convention decrees that the French monarchy is cancelled. The French Republic is single and indivisible. The Convention decrees that anyone who offers or tries to establish monarchic or any other rule in France, infringing on the sovereignty of the people, is punished by death. The French Revolution disturbed the entire world. The old orders were collapsing. A new epoch of world history was beginning. A new order occurred dashingly. During the Revolution events, the fundamental Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen was adopted in France. The Constitution was adopted. Freedom of a man, word, beliefs, and equality of all before the law. These rights of a man were declared natural and unalienable. However, all these advancements and liberty innovations were a large threat to then monarchs of Europe because they might swiftly spread across Europe, crossing the French borders. Wishing to stop these freedom-loving sentiments, entire Europe started to unite against revolutionary France. For the sake of military intervention in the internal affairs of France, Prussia and Austria united in a war union. A convention between Russia and England would be signed for the same reason. Spain, Sardinia, and Naples were also against France. Thus, the first anti-French coalition has been forming. European countries started to draw troops to the borders of the French Republic. But the Republic replied with amazing impulse and enthusiasm to the outer threats. Citizens, our fatherland is in great danger. A large number of troops are approaching our borders. Every man, who's terrified by liberty, takes up arms against our Constitution. Have all the men and women who wish to stand up to defend the cause, which is their dearest, remember they are French and they are free. Have their citizens support the order where they live. Have all the officials keep vigilance. Have everyone with calm courage, which is a sign of true power. Wait for the call of law to begin to act. Then, we will save our fatherland. The mass mobilization was immediately declared. The church bells were ringing across all of France. All capable men, aged 18 to 25, would be immediately called to the military service. Very soon, around 400,000 people were already enrolled. The army promptly gained power. Thousands of volunteers enrolled to protect their fatherland. The appeal to the nation made by a famous revolutionary Danto plus N immensely increased the Republican spirit. Do you hear that? The tocsin is buzzing. But that is not an alarm signal. That is a threat to the enemies of the fatherland. To defeat them, we need courage, and we will save France. By 1793, the Republic was in the fiery ring. And such generals as Carnot, Gauche, and Pichegru fought against the interventionists on various fronts with varying success. However, in addition to external threats, France had internal ones, too. Revolutionary events in France were accompanied not only by progressive and liberal ideas. Bloodshed terror was blazing across the entire Republic. The King of France was beheaded. The guillotine worked non-stop. Thousands of people during this terror were sent to the scaffold. Along with that, the internecine war inflamed Vendée. The revolts and riots roared across the entire Republic, bringing chaos and anarchy. In late August 1793, Toulon on the south raised against the Republic. Very soon, coalitionists joined this revolt. 19,000 English, Spanish, Sardinian, and Naples soldiers arrived at Toulon. Together with the revolting royalists, the garrison increased to 25,000 people. The French Republic was on the verge of collapse. It was vitally important to bring back Toulon as soon as possible. Toulon was a first-class fortress with a powerful line of fortification facilities. Toulon was protected from the sea by the war squadron of English Admiral Samuel Hood. And, in the event of a long siege, English ships were able to provide the constant arrival of reinforcements and supplies. In such conditions, the fortress was literally unapproachable. In Paris, however, were in a hurry because they understood that if they aren't taking Toulon back, nobody would tell where the revolt tentacles go next. By the beginning of September, the Republican army approached Toulon. These days, the army's count was 18,000 people. However, the army only had several dozen cannons and a very scarce supply of ammunition and equipment. That was obviously not enough to take Toulon. Additionally, the army was led by a man who had little understanding of besieging. His name was General Carto. He was a painter before the revolution and did a fast career in just several months of the revolution period. With these forces, they had to take Toulon as fast as they could. By that time, the port, arsenal, city, and all forts were seized by the interventionists. And then chance intervened. On September 7, de Martin, an artillery commander of the Republican Army, was wounded during the encounter with the garrison on the outskirts of the city. As a result, they had to find an urgent replacement for the wounded artillery commander. And exactly at this time, a 24-year-old not yet known captain was passing by the headquarters of the Republican Army as a messenger. His last name was Bonaparte. Corsican Saliceti, an old friend of Bonaparte, was these days nearby Toulon. He was a convention commissioner in the army. They didn't think for too long. The injury of de Martin has deprived us of the head of our artillery. But a lucky chance helped us. We've met Citizen Bonaparte, an extremely knowledgeable artillery captain, who was heading to the Italian army. We ordered him to take place of de Martin. Bonaparte turned out not just a simple subordinate. Having acknowledged the incompetence of General Carto, Bonaparte started to offer his own thoughts about seizing Toulon. Unfortunately, nobody wanted to listen to this unknown captain. Every general standing by Toulon was assured that his plan is the right one. General Lapuop offered to attack Toulon from the east. Carto believed they should do it from the opposite side. And so while the generals kept wasting their time in disputes, Bonaparte started to fulfill his duties in the most active way. He started to put artillery in order and organize the siege park. By his order, the cannons started to relocate from Marseille hastily to Toulon. Various supplies and ammunition were ordered from Avignon. The same orders were sent to Grenoble and Valence. The requisition started all around. The siege park was created in a matter of weeks. Bonaparte collected 100 large-caliber cannons, and supplied them with an abundance of ammo. The main part of the artillery concentrated on the western outskirts of Toulon. During the siege days, Bonaparte was working as an engineer, the head of the artillery, and the park commander. Meantime, the idleness of his commanders continued. There were no feasible plans for how to take Toulon. Bonaparte, not wishing to deal with the organizational impotence of the commanders, wrote to the Committee of Public Safety, which was a risky undertaking. The first thing I offer is to send here a general to command who can, at least, because of his rank, demand respect for him and deal with a bunch of fools in the headquarters, with whom I endlessly argue, show them the regulations, and force them to take measures, which are theoretical and practical axioms for every artillery officer. But all his optimistic hopes for a better commander failed. Instead of Carto, they put General Doppy in charge. The only major difference from Carto was the fact that he was a medic by profession. Additionally to that, they sent from Paris another plan of taking Toulon. It was prepared by the General Darson and approved by the Engineer Committee. The plan prescribed to make the main attack on the mountain Ferron, after which, they would make trenches and start attacking the walls. So many plans completely confused the upcoming siege. Despite all obstacles, Bonaparte continued to make preparations according to his plans. By his command, 2 batteries were built on the seashore. The fire of long-range guns of these batteries forced the English squadron to move closer to Toulon, entering the bay completely. Finally, the situation started to clear up. On November 25, they called the War Council, where the generals had to finalize the action plan. All the options they offered were centered on the classic besieging, including digging the trenches and the final storming of the walls. But, to everyone's surprise, Bonaparte, who was also present on the council, took the word. Approaching the map, he pointed at the La Guillette Hill and told everyone, "Look. Here. Toulon." Some headquarters officers thought that a young officer is confused among the maps. Fortunately for Bonaparte, General Dugommier was by that time sent to command the army. He was a professional military officer who had 40 years of experience. Dugommier understood exactly what a young officer offered. The idea was to refuse the classic besieging and block Toulon from the sea the same as from the land. To do that, they had to seize the La Guillette Hill, which dominated the Bay of Toulon. Having placed long-range guns there, they could effectively shoot the English squadron, which was already cramped in the bay. Under such circumstances, Admiral Hood would never risk his squadron and would immediately leave the bay, swimming back to the sea. Without English support, Toulon would not last a week. Bonaparte's plan was accepted. But the English also understood the importance of this hill by now. They have already additionally constructed the Mulgrave Fort. In a couple of days, a sortie was undertaken. The English unexpectedly attacked the battery of the French. At first, the sortie was successful. English soldiers chased away the French cannoneers. However, Dugommier together with Bonaparte came to aid. With a decisive counterattack, the enemy was thrown back with losses. English General O'Hara was captured in this fight with the French. A decisive moment of the siege arrived. Bonaparte's plan started to be implemented in life actively. After several preparatory weeks, they had everything ready for the assault. The French batteries were doing the massive shooting of fortifications of an enemy 3 days in a row. Along with that, General Dugommier promptly formed the assault squads. Finally, on December 17, at late night, under the pouring rain, the French started their attack. One squad was ahead, led by General Dugommier himself. This squad attacked the Mulgrave Fort. After the main forces of the English were constrained by that fight, Dugommier put the second squad into the fight. It was led by Bonaparte. Together with him, 19-year-old Captain Miron was the head of the 1st Battalion. And the squad of Bonaparte, appearing unexpectedly from the darkness, hit with new power. The gunpowder dampened because of the rain, and so the soldiers had to fight with cold steel arms. The hand-to-hand combat was going in complete darkness. Bonaparte fought in the first rows and was seriously wounded in his thigh. Miron and Dugommier were also seriously injured, but, despite everything, the French fought. And after a short and fierce fight, Miron with his battalion broke through in the fort, over the artillery embrasures, followed by Bonaparte and Dugommier. Although the English fought desperately, they were knocked out of their positions. By the dawn of December 18, the La Guillette Hill was completely freed from the enemy. The losses of the French were 1,500 people, killed and injured. The losses of their enemy were 2,000 people, killed, injured, and captured. Simultaneously with the assault, the French attacked from the eastern direction. As a result of the fight, they seized the mountain Ferron. Colonel La Harpe's bravery can be specifically mentioned in this fight. This very same morning, the French artillery from the La Guillette Hill started a massive fire on the English sea squadron. Watching this, Bonaparte later told to the commissars of the convention, "Tomorrow we will dine in Toulon." And that happened exactly. Admiral Hood, finding himself in a fiery trap, ordered his squadron to weigh the anchor, raise the sails, and leave the raid of Toulon. During their retreat, the English destroyed everything the French could use. They blew up the gunpowder storage, key fortifications, and the French trade ships that were standing in the harbor. A huge fire was blazing in the port of Toulon. The city was embraced by horror in these hours. Many citizens, fearing the Republicans' revenge for aiding the enemies of the Republic, rushed to sail away on the English ships. Eventually, on December 18, Colonel Chervani broke the gates of the city and the forward units entered Toulon. The next day, the entire army entered Toulon. Many troubles and destructions were brought to this city these days. The people's representatives, following the law of the time, established the Revolutionary Tribunal. Several hundred traitors were arrested, judged by that tribunal, and sentenced to shooting. Toulon was seized, and the news about the so soon fall of this unapproachable fortress made a huge impression on entire France. The convention arranged the national holiday for December 24. General Dugommier received many congratulations, but this highly experienced general did not forget about Bonaparte. In his report to the convention, Dugommier wrote about Bonaparte: excellent scientific knowledge, the same mind, and even bigger bravery. These all make only a pale description of the virtues of this extraordinary officer. You shall promote him or he will self-rise. In a matter of a few days, 24-year-old Bonaparte was promoted to brigadier general.